Hey everybody, it's Domingo here from the Breaking Down Show, and today's guest is Chris Goulstone. Chris is a wealth of music knowledge and a multi-decade pedigree as a multi-instrumentalist. He worked with and for everyone. So we'll skip the list. Just know if you want to get it recorded, Chris is top name on the list. Producing TV and film music for over 20 years with over 100 albums to his name, Chris works from Sambourne House Studios, providing cutting-edge tracks for shows around the globe. He also runs the Chapel of Rock. You can go to chapelofrock.com. Don't forget to support the Breakdown Show by going on breakdownshow.com and donating to the PayPal link. You can subscribe to YouTube. You can buy our merch. You can follow us on any podcast platform. And also don't forget to donate to our veteran friends at savethebrave.org. All right, enough of me. Here comes Chris Goulstone.
Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay
This
Moore.
is Greg Proops.
This is Jordan Harbinger.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This is
East.
Sebastian Younger.
This is Rick
This
Marotta.
is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
Hey, this is Skunk Baxter.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
Okay, my name is Chris Goulstone, and this is the Break It Down Show.
And now, the Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
Yeah, so I don't know if Wes is going to pop in or if John is going to pop in, but we have got, so when Wes maybe says, hey, you should have so-and-so on the show, I stop what I'm doing, I do what he says, and I start booking people that I want to have on the show because Wes says to do that. So Chris Goulstone is from the Chapel of Rock, and I'll put that link on here for you guys to check it out. He's also friends with Chris Bell, who we had on last week, the Bellmeister, who is a drummer, and he's been in Susie and the Banshees, all kinds of crazy bands. And then you have Chris Goulstone, this Chris, who's also done similar things. I mean, look, over 100 albums you've worked on, and also you get hired to do music for corporations for any number of things. When you just to start this out, I don't want to get into your background, son, but when you look back at the 18-year-old Chris or the 15-year-old Chris, and you're like, this is where you're gonna, it's not where you picture you would be. You know, you've got this viable career in music and you're successful, you've done it, but what does that young guy think of the modern you? Did you hear that, Chris? We got a lag here. You're not hearing something. Chris, can you hear me? Oh, I can't hear Chris now. Okay. Technical difficulties as always. Chris, I don't know if you can hear me, but the sound changed on your end at one point. We got more of an ambient mic or something turned on. Chris is going to work on that. While he works on that, I'm going to freestyle. I see my buddy Mike Quinn is out there checking us out on LinkedIn. Hey, Mike. Quinn and I go back to the early 90s. I should say the mid 90s. And it's always fun to have him on. While Chris continues to push buttons, let's put up the link. Oh, hey, there he is. All right. It's Friday, man. It's Friday. Okay. What does young you say about the guy you are now? I'm fascinated to hear these kind of answers.
Well, it's been a journey. Yes, absolutely. I mean, I started off in bands. I was in a band, Bronze, which was kind of like my latter days in school, and we ended up doing pretty well. Actually, we got a record deal over here in London, and then toured around, and we ended up in America and toured with a band called Rat, R-A-T-T. I'm in about 84 or something like that. So playing big stadiums and like Red Rocks and I don't know, all over the place, Vancouver, San Francisco, you know. So I got a sort of a taste of what was on offer very, very early on, you know. But I think I was probably, as much as I enjoyed that, I realised there was a lot more to the business side of things than perhaps, you know, that it was paled out to you as a youngster, you know. So I think it was a question, a normal development in my life just to sort of progress onwards, and I ended up all these years later in publishing. And I'm afraid I can't hear you again now. This is really odd.
That one was me. I had the airplane flying
well.
overhead. The business side of things, right? Like some people are artists, some people are business people, some people are a combination. Was the business side harder to figure out than the music side for you?
Well, I quickly went, where's the money? I was making a lot of money for other people, I suppose, and needs must. I had a very young family at the time. I suppose that made me get smart quick, I suppose I was deeply unpopular because I was questioning the industry, the whole sort of status quo of the industry at the time, I don't think it's changed that much, which was the exploitation of youngsters, wanting to be rock and roll and hear their music on the radio and all the rest of it. But after a while, I guess normally it's 5 years, 6 years before someone asks that question. For me, it was 5 or 6 months.
The industry now is a lot different. I mean, even running a studio is like, what are you, crazy? Because I was talking with Chris Hughes. Chris Merrick Hughes. Everybody doesn't know he produced.
He's a neighbor. Yeah,
okay, yeah. And he was like, hey, a lot of these bands don't need me anymore. Like they can do it themselves. I shouldn't say that they don't need him, because what Wes does, what you do, what Chris does, is they get the best out of that performer, right? They make them able to do something more than what they're able to do, but you got to spend a lot of money to be in the studio. So we're driving on through. But when you look at that, like the evolution, how important is a place like Chapel of Rock, or someone who can sit behind a glass window and say, do it again, do it again, do it again, because that is how we get to the greatness.
Yeah, the Chapel of Rock is a moniker. I did actually used to live in the chapel, and now I sold that to a friend of mine, a good friend called Tom Dalgetty, who is a producer. He does Royal Blood and a band called Ghost, you might have heard of in the States, possibly Royal Blood. And so that was nice for me. But now I live in a place called Sambourne House, which is around me now. And yes, I've got a studio here, but it's not a rental studio. It's just for my work and production music, and the music and the productions that I've ended up doing right now, and it's all self-run. I do all the mixing, mastering, most of the playing, but I've got composers that come in, and I've got a few key players, some really good musicians that if I need to call, I can get them in. Some really good guys.
So what would you call this business then? I mean, you're a production studio as opposed to a production studio in the old sense. Is that right?
I'm strictly a publisher now, and
okay.
We publish production music, what used to be called library music, which is, strictly speaking, music historically that was very accessible for clients to use, where you have a show and they want something that sounded like Pink Floyd. Obviously, that's going to be really expensive and something. And in the early days, it was like, do you have anything that, when I was working with publishing, could you just bring out something that sounds a little bit like, something on of Pink Floyd, and you listen to it, and you have that slow pace, and you do the drums of this thing, and you come up with something. And that was very much library music. It was about the ease of use. Now, since the internet, where we've got a generation and a half, probably 2 generations now, are not used to going out and buying records. They can pretty much get on a very basic subscription. They can hear what they want, see what they want for pence, which has killed the record industry to all but the top end of it. There's no one developing young acts anymore. So library music, or production music as it's called now, is probably one of the last sort of bastions of actually being able to make money in the music industry. I'm telling you all my secrets now, but it's about sync licensing, getting your music embedded into sports programs, TV drama, promos for films, a whole plethora of opportunities and things that the hungry beast, it's never satisfied. It needs music on a constant basis, and that's what we do.
Is it possible for a band these days to reliably get to the level where they're playing at Red Rocks regularly on a tour, or have those days passed too?
Oh, I think I'm a bit too old for that now. But no, I had a wonderful time. I mean, it all sort of goes by very, very quick. A lifetime ago, I was in my early 20s. No, I absolutely enjoyed every minute of it. But no, I'm glad I did it, for God's sake. So many people don't do it, and I did. So I'm very, I feel privileged. It gives you a perspective. It gives you an understanding of the world in terms of the distance you travel and the people that you meet. It gives you a good life education.
But is it possible for a new band, someone coming up right now, to get to that level, or have those days passed where, like, hey, you're not going to be able to fill up 15,000 seats in an amphitheater?
I know. I don't know. I really don't. I'm sure, yes, the answer's there. I'm sorry. I'm sure, yes, the answer is yes. And the opportunities are there to a degree. At what difficulty or how it may differ from when it happened for me, I would have to say probably not as easy. But the big difference is that you get a record company that would support you for the first 2 to 3 albums. Album 4 was the biggie, and it would go stellar, and everyone would get their money back, and you'd have a career, and you'd hope that the artist wasn't trying to renegotiate the contract just yet. Now we're in a situation where if your song, the hit, doesn't make any impact at all in that incredibly short space of time, now you're dropped. So yes, there's a big difference, and probably yes, the answer to your question, sadly, is yes, it's harder.
And then obviously COVID has really put a hit on the live industry music. Yes, acts are getting back out on the road, but I don't know how many people I've talked to. I live in California. We're pretty I guess you would say we're pretty hesitant with COVID. We're very cautious with it. And so I talked to a lot of people, and they're like, I'm terrified just to go to a restaurant. Forget about like a live venue or anything. Like, this is it's changed the marketplace. And then you give the nature of kids who like to experience the world on their phone, on their laptop, on their PlayStation, whatever it is. And this is not a knock. This is just how kids do a lot more things. They have to call it in real life now, right? IRL, like in real life. I'm going to go to a concert because there is this alternate life.
So, I mean, I think that's been going on for several generations now. When we were growing up, I don't know, you look a similar age to me, if I'm not being rude, but, there was only music and sport. You got into one or the other, and you're either in a band or you're playing football. Now, kids, there's a whole magnitude of other things that they get into, which is probably good. But back then, it was just these two things. So, and now the opportunity for kids to go and watch a live act, as you say, is gone temporarily, hopefully. And so they're missing out on what we grew up with, that whole rock and roll thing, I guess. Yeah, it's a sad thing.
And then do you feel like the small venues have also dried up a little bit when you could just go on a small venue tour?
I can't speak for Los Angeles or New York City I know in London, yes, the answer has dried up. You get pockets here and there, or have done up to sort of 18 months ago. But on the whole, yeah, obviously because, people haven't got the money to go out and do these things. And like these small businesses as small venues, they have to survive. So in my neck of the woods here, I mean, a lot of the sort of good dive bars or music venues, whatever, they've clean their act up in the way that it's all smartened up and they're putting food out, and it's all kind of more of a European coffee diner experience or rock and roll club. So yeah, not there to be the young guy that was aspiring to play at Red Rocks right now in time. That would be, but then my expectations would be different. My whole life would be not the same. We're very much of our time. I think everybody.
Yeah, for sure. I was thinking about the other day. They're going to remake Valley Girl, or maybe they've already done it. The movie Valley Girl. And one of the things that made Valley Girl great was that they had this upswell of we'll call it the post-punk movement. They had these new wave bands and music that was dangerous but also completely new. And now when you hear the music that they're talking about, I don't know how you make that movie with the same musical impact, because the music is. I don't want to be like an old man, like the music these days, but there's a lot of computer in the music these days, and that what speaks to the young generation is I think it's something different than we had in the 60s, 70s, 80s, even going into the 90s.
Well, yes, I was just talking earlier today about this. I mean, what's different now with the ingestion and the way that people hear music is completely different. When we were perhaps younger, it was more tribal. You were into a certain band and you'd follow them like a football team almost, and it was part of your sort of, whole thing. We're into the scene or this one thing. Kids today, as far as my take on it is that they're into everything has a vibe. Everything is a thing or it's that thing, and it's like it's not genre specific. They skip around generations. They skip around music. They go back to the 70s. TikTok and like Fleetwood Mac Dreams, whatever. And then somewhere else, and it's much more of a encompassing audio visual experience. It's not that tribal thing. We were Led Zeppelin fans or Black Sabbath or Genesis, or you know what I'm saying. It was that thing that we had. That seems to have gone now, and probably for good reasons. I don't know. It's bad. We can be nostalgic, I guess, but the music now is not meant for us.
Yeah, I mean, it's not our music, right? They have their music and their time, but it does seem like certain things die out. And maybe I'm wrong on this, but is there a prog rock anymore? Is there a band going, man, we're going to do what Genesis and Rush and all those bands did? This is our genre.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there will be someone who's fallen in love with that music enough to put a lineup together and replicate it. But that came out of the post Beatles. There was a lot of money floating around the music industry. They were signing bands like that, and it became a lot of hard money went into these subgenres straight out the back end of the blues rock explosion. I'm talking Cream, Hendrix, Zeppelin, obviously being a thing. I think really, you look at bands like Radiohead and U2 and perhaps Oasis over here in the UK. It's one of the last big investment situations that the record companies would do. And I think now, without that support, yes, a lot of these genres will be, tomorrow's ragtime, or you know what I mean, or it's the show band thing. Every little genre has its moment, and then it, perhaps goes away, and then there's a renaissance, and it comes back. I mean, Christ, I've seen that so many times.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, they had their time. Ragtime is a great example. There's no, even Michael Bublé is like, hey, no one's doing this whole thing with, the crooner. Like that's like he came back. It's like I'm just going to sing everybody's songs, do some of my own, but he's just going to be the guy that holds that spot, and needs to do it.
He was a very, very talented man who sort of keyed into a nostalgia vibe, the Dolby invasion. Yes, but he's been incredibly successful. I mean, that ties more into show business as an art form within itself, and you have to be the entertainer. And you go through and you learn your craft. Slightly different sort of thing, but I get what.
How do you determine what kind of performer you are then too? Because you're right. Like, if you're the professional person you call up, like, hey, we want something like U2 or Led Zeppelin. You have someone like Michael Bublé who doesn't even play. I don't know that he actively plays an instrument on stage. I mean, he just sings. There's such a different vibe. Oh yeah, right. Yeah, he does play keys. You're right. Yeah. But how do you sort that out? How do you pick? Because it's not who you are when you start. It's who you become, and you have to stomach the work that you create for yourself, right? And so if you're not going to be the guy that stands by the microphone, how do you sort that out, man?
I'm confused as your question, but yeah, I mean, if you create something and you're part of the movement, I mean, there's a sort of a sharp inward take a breath. Yeah, you are responsible now for the continuation, monetizing the genre or subgenre you are associated with. You can't suddenly do a massive left turn or massive right turn. You've got to continue pretty much center ground and not, suddenly go, here's my new record. It sounds like this, everyone's going, no, that's not what we came for, So yeah. I think career develops. You have a responsibility if you want to continue to have people roaring at you to continue in a vein that the audience is expecting of you. Yes.
I guess my question is how do you, as an artist coming up, how do you find that voice? You know, you may want to be Led Zeppelin, but it's not in the cards for you. You're going to be some other thing. So you've got to be comfortable enough to be uncomfortable long enough to figure out who and what you're going to be. Maybe you're going to just be a composer, you know, maybe you're going to be a Taubin instead of a John, you know, and there's nothing wrong with either of those things. I mean, just to have a career in music is incredible. Maybe you're meant to be a manager and not a performer. How do you sort that out? Do you have mentors that help you go, hey, listen, this isn't your thing. You should be doing this?
No, these are broad questions. I mean, in terms of my own experience, I intuitively follow my gut instincts, and you aim for a high batting average, if you like, and you just keep going. You don't stop. You have to believe in your talents. You keep going, and at the end of the day, it's industry. I mean, it's my professional career, so it has to be all encompassing, you know.
Yeah, you got to go. You got to go to where the money is at. Let me. I want to ask some background.
It was summed up years ago by someone who I can't. Apologies for not giving the author of the quote, but it was, "Are you going to play the market? Are you going to play the blues?" You know, if you're lucky, you get to play both. But
right. Yeah. Well, and what do you like to play? Like when you're just like, "Hey, let's go out in the grass out there, you know, by the house and just play with my friends." What do you play?
I guess I play the blues.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah.
There's a great video where you sent me of you and Chris and the other guys all rocking out. That's fantastic.
Well, yeah, I'll just pick up the guitar and it'll be. You know, it's just blues band, I guess. You know. But we did country western here, you know.
Yeah. When did you start? And did you start on the piano or the guitar? Where did you start and when did you start? How old?
Me? Oh, crikey, I don't know. 7 or 8 years old. I think I had. I was very lucky, really. I mean, I had a sort of a grounding in well, you know, in order to play the scales and a basic understanding of harmony at that age. I retaught myself when I was about 30. I was like the gunslinger guitarist by this point. You know, I could play, you know, count the notes, boys. You know, and I suddenly was okay. That's fine. You're not getting any younger. 20s, like you passed it, yeah. Sorry, 30, you passed it. So I thought, well, I just about a year and a half crammed and learned about modal harmony and all the intricacies of why mathematically sometimes music fits together. And, you know, I just, and it was a good move because shortly after that, I got into what I'm doing now, which is, composing primarily. There's a long time for an American company called Carlin Music, had offices in the UK. And then with Warner Chappell, it's an American company, again, offices in the UK. And now with my own company, and I have sub-publishers around the world, and to release my music, you know, promote it.
When you have you reached the point in your career where you don't worry about money coming in the door? Like there's always going to be another gig and you're able to kind of say yes, no to things. Like we had, and you'll appreciate this, we had Allie Willis on the show, right? And Allie is a Hall of Fame songwriter. She wrote September. She wrote all kinds of songs. I mean, incredible. But the industry recognized her talent for writing hits and just worked the bejesus out of her because, and they didn't take away her love of music, but they took away the love of that work because they just demanded so much.
Yeah. Yes, that motivation. You've got to get up in the morning. You get your butt into the studio. Yeah, sometimes you might not feel it like it. But there comes a point sometimes when you can, if you force yourself to try and write, you can cause damage, you know, than giving yourself a couple of days and then going back in feeling more inspired. You know, I'm lucky that I haven't been in that high pressure situation. I mean, production music or library music, as it used to be known, is pretty much in a department store. It'd be floor 5 soft furnishings. You know, we've been in this sort of little dark corner of the industry. You know, that's done very well. Continue to write and make music and enjoy it. Mostly, you know. So I didn't do it. If I didn't like doing it, I'd probably stop.
Right. Yeah, and the other thing that she talked about was she had a deal where she owed, get this, 1/5 of a song to Warner, and then the Rembrandts owed about the same, and they happened to be in town. And so Warner came to them and said, "Hey, you have to write a theme song to this show called Friends." And so she wrote that, that song, and the Rembrandts are like, "We don't want to perform that. That's not our stuff. We do our own thing." But they were sort of arm twisted into it because of the contract.
Yeah, well, that's gold, you know. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate sink in my world, is to get a song like that on a show that just keeps running, you know.
Right. It's their most successful thing, but it has very little to do with them. That is the music industry for you. And then, yeah, I mean, how busy do you guys get? You don't have to work, all the time. Yeah.
do. Yes, I have to work.
Okay.
I enjoy my work. I can't see me stopping working. I enjoy it. I enjoy every aspect of the business. Every day is new. It presents new challenges. I have, part of my job now is providing metadata, which I spent all my life being a blues guitar player, if you like. Farming myself out, and I've ended up, quite a long period of my work life is staring at a computer screen with an Excel chart filling in numbers. But hey ho, but that's, I'm not that much of a nerd. I don't actually enjoy it that much, but you've got to do it. This is the new age.
Right. Yeah. Right. The more successful you get, the less you get to do the thing that you want to do. There's always other stuff that requires your attention.
I don't mind.
Yeah.
You have off days, but I'm still good for this. I'm still good.
What's a work day for you like? I mean, is it 15 hours, or how do you meter what you do?
Well, it depends. I mean, I can go in the studio and I feel like an hour. I look at the clock and it's like 4 p.m. I go, well, where did that time go? That is a day for me, because the time, relative time, the whole thing, Einstein. That doesn't. It's a weird place to be, actually. You've done good things, and then other times can drag. Nothing, So no, there isn't a typical day.
Yeah, but you don't do the musician thing where you're like, we're just going to work for 36 hours and then eat some pizza and then get back to because some people just work. Like Prince is a classic example. He didn't sleep for weeks because he would just be in the studio possessed by his car.
Can I just say, you had to believe?
Say that again. I didn't hear you.
I think he had you believe that.
Yeah. Okay.
You end up with just like too much stuff. I mean, maybe okay. That is a way of, like, if enough stuff is out, then something will shine through. I think it's like Frank Zappa, right? He was constantly in the studio. I guess.
Right.
I don't know. But no, it's not me.
Okay, let me ask you this in a different way. Is your hobby music, or do you like, I've done enough music today. Now I'm going to go watch some football, or I'm going to go garden, or whatever it is. Do you have something else that you do that occupies time? I don't think
I do. Yes. Music does take up the larger part of my day, obviously. And then there's the admin side. Now that I'm a publishing company, I've been a publishing company for the last 4 to 5 years. I mean, that takes up a lot of time. I've got sub-publishers who furbish all around the world now. 15 sub-publishers, APA, who represent us. And we've just on for another complete contract. Will take us up to a 10-year deal with them. Very happy about that. So, yeah, there's a lot of admin work. And you just get better at organising life. It's been a bit of a change for me. But you'd be surprised what you can do. Every day is a day and all that.
Yeah. Well, what do you do for hobbies outside of music?
What was the question again? No, I have no idea. Well, we're incredibly lucky where we are in the West Country of England. We're surrounded by countryside. I mean, we've got a lovely garden. I've got a lovely dog, and obviously my gorgeous wife Abigail. And yeah, there's things to do, and I can switch off. Sometimes you can't switch off, but I do switch off, and I think it's very important to try and have that cut off in your life. It's not always easy or possible, but you have to do that. Otherwise, you go mad.
Yeah. Okay, but sometimes you can't switch off.
I don't play golf.
No golf. All right, me neither. We agree on that. Sometimes you're not allowed.
Clear about it.
sometimes you're not allowed to switch off, right? You've got a client with a short suspense. They're like, we don't care how much it costs. We're going to need this, and you're up against it. How hard is that? What does that look like? We don't experience that out here.
I understand the question. In my world, we don't tend to have that kind of like client to compose for relationships. Very occasionally you do, and it can be. But the majority is that I will produce a set of songs. They will go out as an album. They're up in the cloud somewhere. We will say, well, this is a great set of songs, and it will be purposeful for promo or sports. This kind of like, it goes this way. And I have a deadline. I have to furbish my sub-publishers with a certain amount of music per year. You have to, So yes, I've got that deadline now. But no, I'm not dealing directly with the clients, so I don't get. Can you just put like a horn on it, please? And it'll be perfect. Like, I don't think I'll be very good with dealing with people on that level, but I have done. So that's some experience and elegance that you've built into your model. You're like, this is not something I'm interested in doing. I don't want those. No, not at all. I mean, that's that kind of work. Your my industry. There's like the trailer industry market, sub industry in production music. I mean, these guys work hard, really hard. The big trailer town, the companies, and that is high turnaround, really high end production. I mean, you're talking like the creme, of composers, but you can very easily burn yourself out in 5 years. And the industry is insatiable, and if you don't deliver on that high level, they're off to somebody else who can, and you can do it. I've just been in. It's a bit like the heron that took the proverb, the heron. I see them all flying past at great speed. I need to up the road a little bit. They've twisted their ankle, they're knackered. I'm just going on, and everything's. I'm just servicing my clients with what I feel the industry needs, and I've got better at judging that over the years. Yes, music does evolve and change. You don't get it all right, but it's that's the way that my life, sort of goes itself out.
How much time do you have to spend outside of the house? Obviously, COVID, let's take that out of the equation. But do you have to go to NAMM show? How long do you have to spend in the industry, in the marketplace?
Oh, no. I mean, well, strictly speaking, you can, be remote 100%, but it's not in my nature. I mean, I grew up earlier in this industry, and I believe fully that going to shake someone's hands and taking them out for a drink or buy them, visiting them, and I always do. I mean, I still go to Los Angeles once a year. Obviously, it didn't go last year. I go to New York 3 or 4 times a year. I go to Australia. It's important to have that client one-on-one basis. That relationship. It's important. Yes. So, but strictly, the answer is probably not. But I do that. Yes, because I think it's important.
And I think just because we're talking about the business side, it's funny how different businesses work, right? Like, I imagine you don't put together a 40-slide pitch deck to come in and talk to a new potential client. I mean, what does that look like, though? Like, when you're trying to talk to somebody new, are they already interested in you and they've come to you? Do you have to develop business? How do you
experienced this about 4 years ago when I was putting this publishing company, Chapel of Rock, production music together. There were some cold calls. I did help from some really great people. But there was a couple of times where I sat down in a meeting with someone, and I knew that what I wanted was them to agree to be a sub-publisher in a certain territory, and then I would forget occasionally that they kind of knew me already from the business, and they go, "Oh yeah, whatever. It's our man. Yeah, we'll do this." I go, "Oh." So I'm fairly, I suppose, notorious. No, I don't really make that cold call these days,
That's good.
Only to my broadband provider. I give them a hard time.
Right. I mean, I guess the other question I want to ask is about composing and how that happens for you. How much of it is done before you ever sit down and grab an instrument? How much of it is in your head? Where do those first brilliant ideas come from? Or are they all down the road somewhere?
Well, I think with the risk of going down to a little squirrel route, but no, I think music is somewhere out to draw it down. I hear you ask the question very early in the morning, and then I try and keep hearing it until I've got the chance, and then I can hear the whole thing in my head, and it's just this getting it down, until what I'm hearing out of the speakers sounds the same. It's not. That sounds very arty and arty-farty, as they say here, and high comedy, but that's a good day.
Good day, yeah. What about a bad day when it's hard and it won't download? What does that look like?
I am not telling you.
Well, I mean, like, do you have to get out of the studio and go for a hard run, or I oftentimes take a nap or take a shower, and then something will unlock when I stop thinking.
Yeah. I can do that.
Yeah.
Techniques.
When you're in the studio working, writing, or you're calling somebody up and you create these environments, like on this show, it happens all the time where I'm like, oh my God, I'm talking with Chris Goulstone, or I'm talking with Sebastian Younger, or this incredible I can't believe I built this thing where I'm sitting across this person. Like I never could tell myself, hey, by the way, Pete, you're going to be talking to all of these incredible people, and list them off, and you'd be like, what? Mind blown. What are those moments for you when you're just like, I can't believe I get to do this?
Oh, sure. I mean, I think it's really important that you try and keep reminding yourself of the fact of the privilege that life has given you, and this is a responsibility. Yes, to, as you say, get excited and enthused. When you're speaking to someone who, you has been a figure in your life, of a heroic figure or something. Yeah, no, I think absolutely. Because that's kind of where the fire started. And you have to sometimes remind yourself, why you are doing what you did, what you're doing, what you're still doing. And absolutely, it's a good question.
Do you have an outlet for your own personal music that you want to put out, or is it always client music?
That's a good one. I occasionally do the odd gig, but it would be a scratch band, some friends. And strictly speaking, I probably don't have the solo record in my back pocket, but I've been doing this for so long now that I kind of creativity and passion, it comes out in the work too. So one form or another, nothing goes out half baked. Everything's going to be something about it, which I go, yeah. So yes.
Speaking of half baked, I'm curious, when on those good days, is the song complete as you download it, or do you realize once you get there and you're twisting knobs and doing things, you have to put in a tambourine or is it a full download?
I can arrogantly say that nothing goes to waste in the studio. What if I start something that's always finished? I never stop. You get an awkward one where it's it's the table with a dodgy fourth leg, sometimes, and you stick with it, and it will right itself, and off you go, and it's done. No, I don't think it's arrogant, really. No, I don't have any. Luckily, no.
We had Frank Stallone on the show, and he talked about, he's Sylvester Stallone's brother. And he talked about how basically he got a download from God. He's like, you're now a musician. And he just had this gift. It just given to him. And we've heard this story from a lot of other musicians where like Mozart just knows how to play the trumpet. He's never grabbed it, but he's watched his dad and friends play. He's like, give it to me. I can play this thing, or violin, or whatever it is, right? People, how does that have you experienced any of this or met these people that have these incredible gifts where they just seem to know? Mick Gillette is a great example. Just knew how to play the trumpet.
I see what you're saying. Not that kind of like you wake up after a coma and you suddenly start speaking.
Yeah.
Suddenly start speaking Spanish. Are you saying that? I don't know about that. I'd have to sort of meet someone who. No, believe you me. There's just you have to do your 50,000 hours.
Yeah, 50,000. You're talking like a long time.
What is it? 20,000? I can't remember.
They say it's 10, but I think you're right. I mean,
well, I'm saying 50.
Yeah. Well, but I'm not.
Okay. No, well, maybe there are. I have certainly not found. I mean, I'm lucky enough to learn an awful lot of talented people, and I had to grow up, myself with this kind of like. But you still really have to work at your technique. You have to constantly. You're using muscles of your body. It's like an athlete. If you don't play, you get rusty. Simple as that. Being active and constantly having to make judgments and decisions within my industry keeps the old grey matter, lucid. So I think everything has to be fully functioning. Yeah.
But as Glenn Campbell's disease progressed, he was still able to play the guitar, and when that started to go, that was really the beginning of the very, very end.
Yeah.
There's some healing in that. Like he could struggle all day long, put a guitar in his hand, and he was good.
Yeah. No, that's yes. I mean, this is a subject. I mean, that now getting a lot of attention for older people in care. As something back to life. They call it dementia, and God willing, and all that. Yes, it's extraordinary the power of music or art or something that can just away a disease one thought they understood. Suddenly you have this ray of sunshine in your life, and it's the constant that the music can provide to you, or the art, or whatever it might be for a creative person.
Are you still getting better as a musician, or do you think you've mastered the craft and now your job is?
I mean, what is better? I mean, faster, probably. I was faster in, but then that's no longer important. I mean, I used to do a lot of session work, and I never once got asked to go like, it's always like play like Nile, okay, no problem, tick, So yes, but you in a more rounded way, your understanding of conventional music. Hopefully is developed and always will develop, and you hear things in a your knowledge of music, understanding of music, and hopefully grows, but without forgetting where it started from. That's very important.
Where did it start from?
For me, we're kids. I mean, I probably heard something and I went, "That's for me." I can't remember that.
Yeah. What do you want? I mean, so you've got a good thing set up, right? You're doing it. You're making money in music. It sounds like you get to pick and choose most of your fights and everything. What's out there ahead for you? Like, where do you want to be? And I mean, I hate the 5-year question, but literally, like, what's ahead, man?
Okay, good question. I've absolutely no idea. I mean, starting with my own publishing company, obviously, I have to fill up and have a bona fide catalogue that could be taken seriously. So in 4 years, we've done about 32 albums, which is hard work. I'm not alone. I have a bunch of 5, 6, 7, 8 other composers. Wes has contributed some great work for us. So that's a responsibility. I've got to keep furbishing, the industry with the music that I feel. Yes, but no, I suppose it's the answer to answer your question. You always think I shall write my symphony now, But, I have getting a little bit starting to feel, well, what the hell who am I? What is this? Absolutely, yeah. Will I do that?
Yeah. Well, I'm sort of in the same place where, like, I've done the podcast thing, it works, but is this what I want to do, or should I try something else next, or do something in addition? I definitely feel that.
I hate to be the man of quotes, but or blatantly using quotes. But another man said to me many years ago, I thought about it so profoundly. He said, and I won't do the Welsh accent, but it was a very famous chap who has a recording studio in Wales, and he said to me, Kingsley, he said, if you do nothing, nothing happens. All right, sure. And then, but it stuck with me. I'm afraid to say that it's absolutely true. You have to apply yourself, basically. You just got to get on with your day and keep going,
Yeah.
So I'm sorry that life is not more profound or more interesting, but that if you don't have that basic getting up and getting on with it, you're not going to achieve anything. So.
It speaks to me. I mean, I'm a guy who believes in if you just work hard every day and deal with the bad days, because they'll always be there. You learn to deal with the bad days, and you look back and there's a pile of work. I mean, over 1,000 shows on this end, talking to incredible people.
That's a lot, man.
Right. Yeah. And so when people say, well, how do you do that? Well, like, I get up every damn day, put my feet on the ground, and I get to work.
Enjoy it. You wouldn't do it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, having this conversation with you, I'm learning things every day. My mind is expanding, which makes me a better host. Right. And this all applies to what you do, same thing.
Same thing. Different kitchen, same. No, hang on. Same different wallpaper, same kitchen. Sorry. There's another quote. Sorry, apologise.
Nah, you can quote anybody you want. It's fine. All this work is out there to be stolen. I saw recently that Elvis Costello.
Cheers.
Oh, look at that. Cheers.
Have a little
Yeah, you should have a little drink. Go ahead. Elvis Costello just was in the news. A young artist was using one of his guitar licks, and I can't think of which one it is right now. It's from the early work in the 70s.
Calling it.
Yeah. And he's like, yeah, of course, that's rock and roll. You think I invented that thing? No, like that came from, I think I don't know, from somebody else. Bob Dylan, I think he said. But yeah, we all get ideas from other places. I mean, CDG is never going to be an original chord progression. It's just not, right? What are your thoughts on his position though? Say, who cares?
Earlier on in my industry, library music, when it was up against the record industry and they didn't want them being used for the latest car ad, now they can't wait. Back then, so people would meet at the library and say, look, we really want to use that well-known tune in this program. Can't you give us something that we can use legally that's very close? And then you're in this song and dance, and it's a horrid place to be because, you feel like you're kind of stealing your neighbour's, tomatoes, no, no, you don't do that. But I think where you're driving at is where does, yes, surprisingly, it's like lottery numbers. I mean, there's, 7 or 8? I can't remember. It's infinitesimal, the amount of different arrangements of numbers. I mean, and then that's your one graph with actual notes. You've also got your rhythm and the harmony as well. So yes, occasionally you get something where they've got the rhythm the same, the top line, the melodic line, whether it be a vocal or a top line on an instrument is the same. And lo and behold, the bass or the base of it, the harmony underneath supporting that top line is the same. You're in dangerous territory, and there are ambulance chasers out there who will listen and go,
yeah.
And so, yes, I don't do that. I mean, I've actually attuned my ear, and I have, occasionally something is submitted to me, and I go, that sounds too much like so-and-so, and I know you didn't mean it. I mean, it's like this kiddie with the Elvis Costello situation. They never heard it before. I mean, so yes, there will be coincidences,
Yeah.
And I'm gracious of Elvis Costello to get fine,
Yeah. And then if you listen to that, okay, someone like Howard Jones is just a hook machine. He's like 15 hooks in his song, right? But with that Elvis thing, that's just a little guitar lick. It's not even really a hook, but someone takes it and turns it into a hook with the modern way of sampling and everything.
Yeah.
He took something that was already there but wasn't really fully realized.
Was it a sample? I don't know the story. Was it a sample or would they have...
It's not a sample. I mean,
no.
It's for sure the same little part, but
it's situational. A deal's always there to be made, I guess.
Yeah.
I've not had that situation, and I'm very wary and very aware of. You just don't do that, basically. Occasionally, as I said, he probably didn't realise that it was the same hook. You never heard that record.
Can you? And Wes made this comment about you. Can you even estimate how much music is in your head that you could just? There's no Excel spreadsheet, right? But you're like, that's Susie and the Banshees, 1975. I think it's this song. I can do that a little bit. You must be able to do that like endlessly.
Okay. I actually, this has come up a couple of times. If I start these, I'm working on it. Excuse me, I've finished it. It's mastered. The sheets, the Excel sheet's been done. It's gone, and that can be an hour later. And I'm on something. I can't even remember how it goes. I think that that's happened without me knowing it. Intuitive, little fail-safe, exhausting. I don't. Well, if it's gone, it's gone, and that to me is a pointer. The artist, have the ability to make the decision. No, this is finished. I'll take the paintbrush off the page. And at that moment, I've let go, and it's gone. And so if I'm happy with it, it means that I have forgotten about it. No, it's not a problem.
I guess I'm also asking about like the music that's in your head that belongs to somebody else, your catalog, your iPod in your head, where you're like, oh my gosh, that sounds like this. You're able to identify songs. You're like, this is just like Def Leppard, High and Dry.
I'm going to revert back to my earlier answer of somewhere between 10 and 50,000 hours. You just,
Yeah.
you just know. You get a feeling for it. You go, hang on a minute.
Does it amaze you though that you can index music like that? Because I know I'll get it. I may not even pull the song, but I know it's there.
We use 10% of our brains. I don't know who said that.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't amaze me. I think we're all capable of amazing things. Bush, and I think you have a passion for it in the style. Not going to, but I haven't really thought, to be honest with you. But yeah, I can do that. Yes. Yeah.
I want to ask, I'm always curious about U2, and you brought up U2, so I'm going to bring them back. They're my favorite band, and I'm always trying to figure them out. Larry, at least originally, wasn't looked upon by the drummers as being a good drummer, or at least he was a very unique drummer in his approach. Adam Clayton doesn't do terribly complex parts. He mostly just picks on the top string and goes up and down. But goddamn, they do it. How does a band like that, how do they figure it out? And how do they stay together and artistically viable to one another for so long?
Okay. They were the right band at the right moment in their scene. I think I touched on this as well. It was a scene. There was I touched on it earlier. The way that music was back then, it was more of a tribal thing. Specific tribal. Yeah, they were part of it, and they quickly. And I think part of it was Bonus' charisma and the crazy sound that the Edge got together and worked on, and that was the sound. And yes, Larry and the bass player, and the bass player, Adam, they supported that with some very disciplined and but supportive playing. I think a lot of it they worked with a lot of good producers. I think, if I'm right in saying earlier on in the career, who would have been encouraging certain messes more in that instance. And I think, and then they got out there and it sounded great in a big room, and it was a good stadium act, and they just went, "We're having this," off it went. They made a fantastic career out of it.
Yeah, they talk about how they became a stadium band before they even had enough songs to have playing stadiums. It's
the right tempo. It's not too busy, and when you watch it in a big room, it's not. It comes over. And Bono is a great frontman. He grabs you. So all the ingredients are all there.
One of the rules they had, especially early on, was the Edge wasn't allowed to do triumphant guitar solos and stuff like that. They just didn't, and that's part of the whole new wave movement. We're just going to do something differently, right?
Yeah, perhaps.
He's also redefined the instrument in a lot of ways that some people respect and some people don't. What are your thoughts on what he gets out of the guitar?
Oh, he's certainly created sound. I mean, there's been I don't think anyone's tried to ape him completely as a like for like, but that textural use of sound that he with his guitar has gone into the music industry in many aspects. Not that it worked its way in. It's not you can't pinpoint it out, but it's there. It's part of what we listen to now. That textural play.
Why do some people not like his playing and they think it's oversimplified? I mean, why does he not get the respect that he might deserve, given he's so pervasive with his influence, you can't even always pull it out?
I don't know. Change channels.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Let's talk about Wes for a minute.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? Tell us who Wes is.
Wes, a friend. I mean, I was introduced to Wes. Was introduced to me by Chris Bell. So there you go, the full circle. Many years ago now, 20 years ago, perhaps less. Incredibly bright guy, very passionate about his music, very into his equipment as well, technical side of things. Back then, really useful chap to have around, But we've he's a dear guy, a dear friend, sweet soul, and we've been friends, And I dragged it. Well, as soon as I had this opportunity with my own label, I knew there was a little place where the Wes could come in and assist and create some music. So, I gave him a couple of things. Can you do this? But yeah, and he delivered. Great guy, professional.
Why is he so desirable? Why? I mean, people when they work with him, they rave about him. And it's one thing to be good, but I've never heard anybody go, yeah, Wes is pretty good. They're like, oh my God, he's so incredible. And partly it's the technical things, but there's something in his nature that makes him resonate.
I think the music and he's a very good people person. And I think that comes out and he makes people feel at ease. And if the people are at ease, if it's a band in a studio, they just arrive, you set up, you're miking stuff up. Everyone's at ease and everything's sounding good off the get-go. And then the vibe starts. And then you go, we like that guy. They might not know exactly why they like it. And then over a period of time, they'll go, I know what. They go, we need Wes here again, you know.
Yeah, you're right. That's what happens. And then he gets called things like the gunslinger, and they love who he is, you know. It's incredible. The gunslinger, they call him, you know, like he makes these bold choices, I guess.
I have absolutely no comment.
Okay. Hey, listen, we're about to wrap this up. What questions should I have asked you? What did you want to talk about that we didn't get into?
Say again?
What questions should I have asked you, or what did you want to talk about that we didn't get into?
I mean, it's been an interesting flow of conversation. Apart from the technical difficulty, Wes would have sorted that out in an instant. You see, earlier on the thing. I apologise for that. I have no idea.
No, it's this is the modern way. It's a live show. You know? Listen, let me get this all signed off.
I think you've done a job. I mean, obviously we just met.
Right.
You know, there's more volumes to be had, I'm sure, at some stage.
Yeah. No, I love it. I'd love to have you on again because your point of view is so interesting to me because you've done it. You've done it for a long time. You got 50,000 hours. Anything you get hired long enough to have that many hours means you're damn good at it, you know?
Well, they haven't spoiled me yet, something like that. No, I want to take the compliment. Thank you very much.